Hello, welcome to episode 6 of the Fighting Cock, season 13. How you doing, John Boy?
Good, mate. Very good.
Gift Orban, is he good?
Don't care. Want him in.
Same.
Sounds great.
Same.
Love the cut of his jib. It looks like a little Aguero vibes. That's what I'm getting from him. Low centre of gravity. Hard shot.
What, are you going more Aguero or are you going more Defoe? Because they are different, but similar.
Yeah, they are different. What I've seen, it reminds me of Aguero. I'm not saying he's as good as Aguero or it'll be as good as Aguero. As soon as I saw the clips, I was like, oh, he looks like Aguero. That's what it reminded me of. But I get the Defoe one as well because he's pacey and he hits things early and stuff like that. So I get it. But yeah, I thought Aguero, to be honest.
I'm getting Aguero vibes, and I'm saying he is going to be as good as him. What do we do with him though, John? What do we do with him? Because we've got Veliz, we've got Richarlison, and we've got Orban. If he signs, I don't know if he's signed. The information that's coming through would suggest that he will be a Tottenham player before the end of the transfer window, which is widely tipped to be a wonder kid. This is a player that they're going to be talking about in the same sentence as fucking, I don't know, some good striker in Europe. I don't want to say the right one because I was going to say. We're not talking about Aguero levels, right? But who knows? Anyway, we don't want to miss the boat on this. And so it looks like he may be coming, or it seems like he might be coming. But we're kind of stacked as a number 9 now. Like, in my head, I'm like, do we just sign him, send him back on loan to Belgium or wherever so he gets another season? Or I think what you're going to go with, John, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think what you're going to go with is just sign him now. If he's good enough, just stick him in.
So... Nearly, basically, yeah. This Veliz geezer, my understanding of he's a bit more like a target man centre forward. Like he's really good in the air, is the main takeaways I'm getting from him. But I feel like Richarlison, who's going to be starting as our main striker, he's also pretty good in the air, right? And he presses high and chases things down and stuff like that. So I think if you want an alternative, I think you need someone who's different. And I think from what I've seen of Orban, he's almost like a completely different type of player, but you still get the fundamentals that Ange needs, like high pressing, hard working, and pacey. But he's just a different type of player. He's just a bit more, I think from the clips I've seen, a bit more technically gifted in and around the box, which I think is what you want. You want something different. So I would probably do it the other way around. I'd see if we could get Veliz alone, like Championship, Premier League, something like that, so he just gets a bit more kind of up to speed with what's going on. Or again, you just have him as an option off the bench if you're trying to break teams down and you want to put balls in the box. Maybe he gives us something a bit different. I don't think there's any harm in having options. I think there's it's sort of flip-flopped in football, but it goes from what you want is a really strong 11 that's really good, because otherwise, if you have too much rotation, it's hard to work out what's going on. And then you have that and it doesn't work, and people go, what you need is more rotation, you need more options. And I think we're now getting to a point where people are like, well, we don't need him. And I'm like, but it's good to have options. Hopefully we don't need him. Hopefully Richarlison scores 1 million goals this season. He's just on the bench the entire time. But I'd rather have an option of having an exciting young prospect that we can bring on and change a game potentially.
But he's going to be fuming though, isn't he? If he just signs goes, sorry, you're off to fucking not Grimsby. Any team that plays in the Championship, QPR. I don't want to. I've flown halfway around the world. I've brought my family here. I've left my girlfriend. She cries down the phone every single night at me. Why have you gone to London? Why have you gone to London? I've got to go to London, my love. I've got to go. I want to play for Tottenham Hotspur, a world famous club in the Premier League. I can't not go. And he's going, oh, can you just go over to QPR for a season? It's not going to happen, is it, John?
Yeah, true. But look, let's think about this. It might not even be the case because Richarlison's pretty injury prone. So let's just say we sign Orban, and now we've got essentially 3 players who can play down the middle. Richarlison gets injured, and so Orban then becomes your starting striker. You still need a striker on the bench. So I don't think it's drastic. Plus, I know we don't have Europe, but we will have cup games, and you will want to rotate there if Richarlison is playing every league game, for example. And then our ambition is to be in Europe next season, right? We want to qualify somewhere, whether it's Conference, Farmers League to Champions League. We want to be in Europe. So why not give these players a season to get up to speed with Ange's system and maybe get a few minutes here and there and see which one The thing is, when you sign young players, it's no guarantee they're going to be good. So if you've got a couple, hopefully one of them ends up being decent. So I don't mind even if they both stay, to be fair.
The issue is, well, is there an issue that, perhaps in coming to the Premier League from playing in the Belgian league, and I'm not sure where he was before then. He's had 2 clubs last year, I think, if I understand it correctly. Are we expecting too much from him if we're signing him and want him to stay and be a part of that first team squad? Because you're paying £30 million, you don't often loan back a £30 million player, so he's gonna have to be a part of it. He has to be an effective member of our first team. But are we expecting too much of him? Like it's a risk, isn't it? The Belgian league isn't of a significant standard. You can't compare it to we often say that Portuguese league isn't good enough, really. He's done it in Portugal, but can he do it in the Premier League? That's magnified by 10 for the Belgian league. Do you think there's a world where he can step up legitimately this season?
Yeah, I think sometimes with the league thing, I know I've often said stats are rubbish. It's a different league, so it's completely irrelevant. I think to a certain extent, there are players who were doing quite well in Spain, which is considered a top league, like Soldado. And when he was there, it was a top league, and he was scoring loads of goals, and he was rubbish. And then, if you look at Haaland before he signed for Dortmund, it's not exactly like a top tier league. And there are plenty of examples of other players who've come from Belgium and become amazing. So it's hard to tell. It's not his fault. That's where he's. There you go. It's not his fault. That's where his career's started at, right? That's just the way it is. In the same way as there's plenty of players who've come through the Premier League that are rubbish. So just where you start is just kind of at random. So I think it's a calculated risk. Again, there's loads of stats and data floating around about how efficient he is and how good he is, and just his goal record looks mental in that league. So you can only destroy the league that you're in before people go, well, maybe he could cut it in the league that we're in. And I think it's a calculated risk. So yeah, we would be taking a risk, but every transfer is a risk, right? Like I said, we signed a player like Soldado that seemed like de-risking by going, well, this guy's scoring goals, he plays for Spain, he's probably going to be decent for us, and it didn't work out. I'd rather try something like this than the links we've had with, say, Lautaro and Martinez, who I got in a bit of stick on Twitter because I basically said I've seen him maybe 20 times and he's been rubbish. And that's maybe not big enough sample size, but he will cost a ton. He will cost a ton more.
Hang on,
I personally would rather try an Orban.
Over Martinez?
Who I've never seen.
Look, we did talk about this yesterday. Look, there's what you just said. 20 games is a decent sample size. It's more than most.
Yeah.
Don't believe what people say, right? There'll be people listen to this and be going, well, on this podcast, they said that this player was, perfect for. What they're doing is regurgitating stuff that they've read about this player on the internet, right? If you've watched Lautaro Martinez play 20 times, that is a fantastic sample size. So whoever says that isn't, watching a player who doesn't belong to your football club in a league that your team doesn't play in, I think you're fair to say what you're wrong about what you said. That's the problem. You're wrong. Your opinion's incorrect. But but the fact that
I've arrived at the wrong conclusion.
Yes, you have. There's if you have the choice, he's not even that old, is he? Martinez, I can't remember.
Martinez,
mid-20s, something like that.
Yeah, he's got to be mid to late 20s, isn't he?
I think
he's not 30, isn't he?
24.
Oh wow, he's really young then. I didn't think he was that young. Yeah, just double check.
Yeah, he's 25. He's 25. So, look, that's that's you're buying player moving into his peak. If we have the option, the downside on him that is it will cost a lot of money. But I was shocked at the reaction on Twitter of that. Who is it that tweeted about it? I can't remember. I think it might be Hotspur related, something like that. And they tweeted that we are interested in him. The first thing was no thanks, liked by 69 people. What is it that you think we're going to get? If Martinez is not good enough for Spurs, what is it exactly that you think we're going to attract? We're not going to replace Kane. It's impossible. I can see the attraction of someone like Gift Orban because he's cheaper and based on what other people are saying, because none of us have watched him play other than YouTube highlights, and you're a liar if you say you have. I think. Correct. Well, 99% of us are. Then maybe you go with that because enough people are talking about him and hyping him up that maybe that is the case. I mean, you've seen big big profile players like Martinez come and not do well, and his system under Conte really suited him to play. But to say we're better than Lautaro is mental.
What I think it is, though, mate, and this is I'm defending Martinez. Is that those 20 games I'm talking about would have been the biggest games of the season for like league games, like Milan derbies. I watched a couple of those last year. Like big games against Juventus, Champions League games, and then World Cup games for Argentina. So it would have been against the toughest opposition. Now, I think that most people who would have watched any games of his would have been in the same category, right? They'd have seen the biggest games that he's playing in, the highest pressure, and again, the toughest competition. He was, I don't think anyone could argue, absolutely shit at the World Cup. He looked awful. Yeah. Now, I was like, he's not this bad. Like, he was definitely worse in the World Cup than he was in the other games. But I didn't see enough in those games to go, there's a player who's just struggling to get into the game, or it's the quality of the opposition. Like, you don't have to score loads of goals in all the big games to be a good player. You can see players like touch and ability.
Yeah, cool.
And I just don't see it. I just don't see it with him. So I think that's what counts against him, is that people have only seen him in his toughest moments and have made a judgment on that in the same way as I have. Whereas Orban doesn't have any taint, right? It's all just like, oh my God, look at his numbers. Oh my God, look at like the stats. Oh my God, he looks amazing. And it's like, so people just see it as like, well, he could be amazing. Whereas they know Lautaro's kind of where he's at, and their only kind of frame of reference is him not playing well in big games.
Yeah, it could be that he isn't the right fit for us, and his profile's high and it costs a lot of money, and for that reason people are turned off. And
because people aren't, sorry mate, I was going to say people aren't poo-pooing Orban, because if you're talking about like where they sit in rankings of strikers in the world, Martinez is clear of Orban today, right? And I don't think Spurs fans are going, oh no, we don't want Orban, that's even worse.
No
like, they're like,
that,
oh yeah, okay,
yeah,
exactly. So I don't think it's about,
it's the attraction
I think
of the unknown
he's a good
as well.
fit.
Yeah, well, yeah. Look. This is in terms of Orban, to finish on him. He played for Stabæk, I want to say, football club. There in Norway. He scored 19 times in 24 last season. He had 7 assists. He got a move to Ghent, and he scored 25 in 26, and assisted 2. That as a young player is attractive, and there's absolute reason. That's essentially the reason why big clubs are looking at him. And it isn't just Spurs that have been linked with him. It's just Spurs have a necessity where other clubs don't. Like, Orban isn't going to be a priority for Liverpool because Liverpool have an abundance of attackers, or Arsenal, or some people, or Chelsea. Although even them might, who knows what they're going to do. But it's it's an interesting one, and I think we should all be excited if it does happen. It's just the attraction of the unknown sometimes is more, romantic than the reality. But who knows? Let's be positive about it. Did you know I found out today? So
go on. I was going to say, like, we have to fish in this market, right? Like, you made the point there. We're not going to drop like 100 million on a striker to do a like for like comparison. I mean, you can't do a like for like, but you know what I mean. One in, one out at the same price. We're just not going to do that. So like, we have to operate in a bit more of a smart way. So I think actually, I can only speak for myself, but it feels like, based on the reaction, people are kind of buying into that concept. It's kind of like quite fun to just like find these gems and see if they work out. I'm not talking about like, dropping 12 million on Nkudu, but like finding these kind of players that people are kind of know will go to a big club in the next 2 years, and we be the one that takes the punt on them, which is what Borussia Dortmund do. And we all look at them and go, oh my God, they're the model. I'm like, they're a massive club who are in the Champions League all the time. It's not like they're a Brighton or a Brentford, right? You can be a big club and still do it that way, I think.
There's loads of Spurs fans out there that would not be happy with that model, because Borussia Dortmund are very much a selling football club. And it just makes me think, that it was a little bit of a small club mentality to be desperate to hold on to Kane. To say, you mustn't leave. You mustn't leave. And there's two sides to this coin. Because some say, well, you've got to show ambition by keeping your best players. But all the best teams in the world sell their players. They think, all right, every player has a value. You understand and respect that value. And then you have to operate in a way that means that you do your best to replace that asset should you have to sell it. And that's the thing that we're not comfortable doing, I think. Not that I've seen.